Way back in 2017, back when none of us knew what the words prorogue or furlough meant, I made a video looking at the 7 best paid teenagers in world football. That was back when I inexplicably used to shout in all of my videos, so I wouldn't recommend going back and watching it. The young Aston Villa fan Josh messaged me on Twitter and suggested the idea of doing an updated 2020 version. None of the players who featured in that previous video are teenagers now, but as a quick recap, just for comparison to today's video, the best paid teenager in the world at that time, Gianluigi Donnarumma, was on £180,000 a week. Meanwhile, the 2 players tied in 7th place, Christian Pulisic and Kai Havertz, were raking in £26,000 a week. So let's see how that compares to now. Here are the 7 best paid teenagers in world football. Alphonso Davies, £33,000 a week. We've a pretty similar starting point in terms of wages as we did 2.5 years ago, with a slight rise as one might expect given the increased amount of money in football and general inflation during that time. Alphonso Davies may only be the 7th best paid teenager in world football, but one could make a case for it being close to the best and certainly among the top 3 best teenagers in terms of talent. The Ghanaian-born Canadian international joined German giants Bayern Munich from Vancouver Whitecaps in June 2018, penning a 4-year deal reported to be worth £33,000 a week. Davies set Bayern back potentially as much as $22 million, but that is already looking like a smart piece of business by the Bundesliga tabletoppers. The teenager joined Bayern as a dangerous wide man who was beating players for fun in the MLS, but he made just 6 appearances in his first half season in Bavaria. This season, Davies has been handed a whole new task, dropping into the fullback position. An injury to Niklas Zula earlier this season saw Bayern's natural left-back David Alaba deposed to centre-back, with Davies dropping into the fullback position. Bayern may have hoped that their tendency to control games would cover for Davies' defensive and positional struggles at left-back, but there have been no struggles at all. Quick, powerful and intelligent, there's a discussion to be had with regards to whether Davies should remain at left-back full-time. William Saliba, £40,000 a week. Arsenal have had a long tradition of signing talented young Frenchmen, and it is one that has persisted even since Arsene Wenger's departure. There have been few who the Gunners have been as excited about as William Saliba though, who officials at the Emirates seem to be quietly confident about helping address many of Mikel Arteta's defensive problems. Saliba joined Arsenal last summer, aged 18, for a reported £27 million from St Etienne. That is an enormous fee for an 18-year-old, but the Gunners weren't alone in their chase for the youngster. A towering centre-back, Saliba is already 6'4", and having only recently turned 19, it's quite possible that he is still growing. Quick, strong, and positionally alert, just as you all should be by the way, alert, Saliba is already a well-rounded centre-back and his potential could be stratospheric. It only took 16 games for St Etienne to convince the likes of Tottenham and Arsenal that they should try and sign him, but Arsenal did so last summer in a deal which saw Saliba return to St Etienne on loan this season. Saliba signed a 5-year deal at the Emirates, reportedly worth £40,000 a week, so just over £2 million a year, which isn't bad going before you've turned 20. Fun fact, Saliba's youth coach at St Etienne was Kylian Mbappe's dad, and Saliba will no doubt hope to be starring alongside Mbappe in the France team in the not too distant future. Ryan Sessegnon, £55,000 a week. It's pretty remarkable that Ryan Sessegnon is still a teenager when one considers how long ago he made his debut and how much first-team football he has played during that time. Sessegnon will turn 20 next week, but for the time being, he is believed to be the 5th best-paid teenage footballer on earth. Sessegnon's breakout season came 3 years ago, in the 2016-17 campaign, when he announced himself as one of the brightest prospects in the English game. The following season, Sessegnon scored 16 goals as Fulham won promotion to the Premier League, and he was named as Championship Player of the Year. Last season, he featured in 35 of Fulham's 38 Premier League games, gaining invaluable experience, but failing to light up the Premier League in the same way as he had lit up the Championship. Despite his more modest form, there was still considerable interest in Sessegnon when the season drew to a close. Rather than £50 million, the talk was closer to £30 million, and in the end, Sessegnon joined Tottenham in a deal worth £25 million plus the player exchange of young Tottenham midfielder Josh Onoma. Sessegnon has made 12 appearances for Tottenham this season, with just 6 coming in the Premier League, and his only goal for the club came against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Vinicius Junior, £59,000 a week. When Vinicius Junior agreed to join Real Madrid in May 2017, he became the 2nd most expensive Brazilian of all time, behind Neymar, and the most expensive footballer ever transferred under the age of 19. Whilst Vinicius Junior agreed to join Real in 2017, he didn't actually arrive at the Bernabeu until 2018, when he turned 18. Primarily a left winger, but also capable of playing through the middle, there was, and still is, enormous excitement about Vinicius. Quick and tremendous on the ball, he scored 7 goals in 10 games for Brazil's under-15s, and 17 goals in just 19 games for Brazil's under-17s. He has long been considered a talent then, hence why it cost Real Madrid a reported €46 million to get him out of Flamengo. As one might expect, Vinicius hasn't been as prolific in the Real Madrid first team as he was in Brazil's youth ranks, having scored 8 goals in 59 games. His finishing has been the main question mark over Vinicius since his arrival in the Spanish capital, but he is still only 19, and there are plenty of flaws to his game which should be ironed out in the coming years. Already a full Brazilian international, Vinicius signed a 5-year deal with Real, which began in 2018, which reportedly pockets him £59,000 a week. Rodrygo, £71,000 a week. We go from a 19-year-old Brazilian winger at Real Madrid in 4th place to a 19-year-old Brazilian winger at Real Madrid in 3rd place. Real Madrid seem determined not to be beaten to the brightest and best talent that the Campeonato Brasileiro has to offer, and Rodrygo certainly fell into that bracket. At the age of 18, he had already scored 17 goals in 80 games for Santos, predominantly from the left flank. A smart, technical and sharp-eyed young wide man, Rodrygo was also signed by Real a year before he was actually allowed to join the club. Los Blancos struck a deal to sign the teenager for €45 million in 2018, but the teenager's contract in the Spanish capital didn't start until he officially joined the club in 2019. The contract in question, a whopping 6-year deal, is believed to be worth £71,000 a week, which makes Rodrygo the 3rd highest earning teenager in the world. Rodrygo has, thus far, scored 7 goals in 18 games in his debut campaign with the club, with 4 of those goals coming in the Champions League and 3 in just a single game. Rodrygo became the 2nd youngest player to score a hat-trick in the Champions League against Galatasaray earlier this season, and the youngest player to score a perfect hat-trick in the competition. Callum Hudson-Odoi, £120,000 a week. Callum Hudson-Odoi's enormous pay packet has almost made him a symbol of the lucrative contracts young footballers are handed these days without having proved an enormous amount within the senior game. Of course, Hudson-Odoi was only handed such a large salary because Chelsea wanted to ward off the interest of Bayern Munich, who no doubt would have offered him a hefty wage as well. Hudson-Odoi may not yet have lit up the Premier League or the Champions League, but he is an enormous talent, whose ability to impress was severely set back by the Achilles tendon injury suffered at the back end of last season. Hudson-Odoi, who has already won 3 senior caps for England, has long seemed destined for greatness. He has starred for England at every youth level, from the under-16s onwards, with officials at Chelsea long marking him out as a star, even among their excellent crop of youth graduates. Hudson-Odoi signed a 5-year deal with the Blues last summer, amidst interest from Bayern Munich, believed to be worth £120,000 a week, which makes him the 2nd best paid teenager on earth. I'm a big fan of Hudson-Odoi's, and I firmly believe he'll go on to have a very good career, but there's no doubt that's a lot of money for what he's achieved in the game to date. The 19-year-old has scored 8 goals in 53 games for Chelsea in total, yet he earns the same as the likes of Alisson Becker and Aymeric Laporte. Then again, he also earns the same amount as Danny Drinkwater, so maybe it isn't so bad after all. Erling Haaland, £133,000 a week. Despite being only 19 years of age, Erling Haaland has already scored 61 goals, scored a hat-trick on his Borussia Dortmund debut, and rattled PSG. In fact, Haaland is the top scorer in the top flight of European football this season, with a truly extraordinary 40 goals from just 33 games, including 12 goals in 11 games since signing for Borussia Dortmund and 9 in 8 in the Bundesliga. On those grounds, one could make a solid case for the Leeds-born Norwegian international being the best teenage footballer on earth, and he has a weekly wage, which would reflect that fact. Haaland joined Borussia Dortmund in January for just €20 million, a bargain by anyone's estimations even before his barnstorming start to life in the Bundesliga. But he still didn't come cheap, at least in terms of his wage demands. Haaland is believed to have agreed upon a 3.5-year deal with Dortmund, worth £132,500 a week, which equates to more than £24 million across those 3.5 years in total. Haaland is a really powerful and lethal centre-forward with incredible movement and anticipation for his age and an absolutely thunderous left foot. He seems likely to be one of the best centre-forwards on earth for the next decade or more, and he's likely to become a pretty wealthy man during that time. It's worth noting, however, that Haaland earned significantly less than the best paid teenager in world football 2.5 years ago when I last made this video, when Gianluigi Donnarumma was on £180,000 a week. That is it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Give us a like if so, and obviously do make sure that you're subscribed to HITC Sevens.